and we are going to record this for any of y'all who missed this and want to check it out later. All right. So welcome to the Feminine Code. And this is a masterclass all about unlocking hormonal balance and cycle wisdom at any age. Because there's so many women in the world that are struggling through all sorts of different hormonal things. And the truth of the matter is, this is very common, but it's not normal. So there's so much we can do for the body to restore balance. That's what we're going to discuss. But before we dive in, I always like to share a little bit about me and who I am and my background. So I never thought I was going to be a health practitioner. I was originally a dancer and I was teaching aerial dance all around the country and performing. Super fun until I had my own health crisis. And this really shifted gears for me. I had chronic pain. It started in my hips, it spread throughout my body, and it really took over my life. And my hormones were all out of whack. I had stage 2 endometriosis and some cysts, some just ongoing imbalance going on in my body, and a lot of inflammation. So I tried everything that I could think of in the book that I knew about, and then I started asking everybody else what they were trying. And after trying what felt like everything, I finally found regenerative health. A good friend of mine turned me on to a practitioner, and she led me down this rabbit hole of wonder. And it literally only took me 4 months, and I was out of pain, and my hormones balanced out in a way that I didn't even know was possible. And all of a sudden, I was having pain free periods, and I was like, what in the world? Like, I didn't even know that this could happen. So I shared this with my family, and both of my parents had deep chronic conditions. They both had huge health breakthroughs in a pretty short period of time, like a matter of a few months. So that was the turning point for me where I had really fallen in love with this practice. Oh, yay, Christy's coming in. And I decided that I wanted to share this with the world. So I went to the Institute of Regenerative Health and got trained under Carrie Drinkwine. And her story really just ignited me on so many different levels because she had 3 different autoimmune diseases: fibromyalgia, lupus, and Hashimoto's. And she was told that she had infertility. She was never going to be able to have babies. She had 5 miscarriages. And she was able to turn all of that around in 12 months, her autoimmune and everything. And she became symptom free. And now she has 5 children. So when I heard her story, I was like, I want to learn from you. And she founded the Institute, and she's been training us up to share this modality with you throughout the world. So let's dive in, and there'll be a Q&A at the end too. So if you have any questions, let me know at the end. But if you have any burning questions, feel free to raise your hand as we go too. Hi, Christy. Thank you for joining us. I'm so happy to see your face here. All right. So to start off with, I do have a little quiz for you. So all of these questions are worth 1 point unless they are labeled otherwise. So I'd love for you to just go through real quick and just take a little point check here. Do we have irregular cycles? If we're moving into perimenopause and menopause, are we experiencing unsavory symptoms? Do we have painful periods? Are we dealing with PCOS, endometriosis, some kind of thyroid stuff, other hormonal disorders? Do you have any history with ovarian cysts or fibroids? And so on and so forth. So take 1 second and finish these questions. I'm going to just give you 1 minute. Oh, one other person trying to get in. I'm going to see if I can get them in the room here. Okay, so have we done it? Do we have our score? Oh, Catalina's coming in too. Wonderful. I'm going to hover on this slide for just 1 more second so the ladies coming in can take a snapshot if they want to. Or hi, Catalina. Thank you for joining us. we are doing a little hormone health quiz. So all of these questions are worth 1 point unless they are labeled otherwise. We are going to move on from this slide shortly. So if you want, take a screenshot and do the little quiz in a little bit for yourself. Oh, and we have Vilma coming in. And feel free, Devin, wonderful. Yes, feel free to share your results in the chat if you so feel like it. And then we can talk about it in a second. You don't have to share anything specific about yourself. Okay, so we're going to move on. So, depending on where you're at, if you're a 1 through a 3 right now, if you clean up your diet and your products, try maybe a gentle cleanse or something like that and start integrating some herbs and some more nutrient-dense foods, then you should be feeling pretty spiffy. If you've got a 4 through an 8, this is a little deeper, a little more chronic stuff has been going on, so it's time for a reset. There's definitely some more house cleaning to do, and the body's asking for some more holistic support and cellular detox. And if you've got 8 through 14, this means that a much deeper regenerative reset would really benefit you. Your body is saying like, hey, it's time for some shifting to happen. And that's what I'm here to illuminate, like how we can go about that and really paint the picture and roadmap to your best body and your optimal health. Because we don't have to suffer. It's optional. Even though, we all go through things, there are ways to get out of it no matter what is going on. So, how do we figure it out? How do we figure out what the body needs? What is it asking for? What's actually going on? So, I am an iridologist, and this is a practice of looking at the eye and figuring out what your current state of health is. And the eye is structured just like the human body from head to toe. So I know there's so much on here, you can barely see it at this angle, but this is my iris chart. And my clients all send me an iris photo and I lay my chart over it and I figure out, okay, so what's going on in the organs and glands? And I can actually get an estimate of like what level of deterioration is happening in the liver or the pituitary. And are there any breaks in the gut lining? What's really going on here? So you can see here, this person has these like rings that are circular that are going around the iris. These are called nerve rings. So when we have a really stressful situation or we move through some trauma, our iris fibers will actually clench and they will leave this ring in the eye. So if I see those in the eye, I'm like, oh, we need to support the nervous system more. That's going to be one of our main focuses. And then all of this brownness right here up here, this is all lymphatic congestion. So I can say, oh, the lymph is not draining well. So we are going to get to the root of things and make sure the kidneys are properly supported and the GI so that we can drain the lymph out of the body. So that's just a little peek into one of the biggest ways that I look inside and figure out what's going on, as well as a whole bunch of other intake stuff that we do. So just to give you an example of what can change in 6 months, it's pretty phenomenal. So this woman did have autoimmune going on. She had a lot of gut issues. And you can see in this eye, this is a 6-month protocol she did. You can see how these iris fibers are super raised and kind of like puffy and cloudy here. That is all the inflammation in the body, like raising these iris fibers up. And you can also see these furrows here coming out like kind of like spokes on a wheel. This is gut injury. That means that there's actually a channel of waste that's being channeled out of the gut into a certain area of tissue over and over again. So this deterioration happens over time. So you can see here, not only are these iris fibers laying down, they're flat, which means that the inflammation in the body has dropped drastically, and she was able to reverse her autoimmune. But also, like, look at these spokes here. They are so, so, so tiny. There's such restoration that's happened here and all throughout here. This is much less chronic, much less dark. So you can see the beauty of what can happen in just a 6-month protocol. So let's talk about the blocks to health and balance. Hormonal health, just like anything else, when we get to the root of it, there's 3 blocks. There's stress, There's an emotional block or there's a physical block, or there can be a combination of all the blocks all at once, which most of us in life, we've got multiple things going on at once. So we're going to dive into the nitty gritty here. Stress and our hormones. So the hypothalamus is a gland in the brain that connects the emotional body to the physical body. So it is in charge of telling us, oh, hey, we are stressed out and it's time to reroute our blood flow and, and get ready to run, because our bodies don't know the difference between, having a little argument with your boss or your spouse or somebody and like getting chased by a tiger. Literally the same physical response happens in the system, and the body is always trying to protect us. So it's like, okay, we're stressed out, that means we're in danger, that means it's time to shut off hormonal production and we are going to get ready to run. So ignoring stress over a period of time can deeply affect us and our health and our hormonal balance on so many different levels. And that hypothalamus is what says, hey, this is what's going on. So our bodies are actually a reflection of our emotions on many different levels. So just to give you a little nutshell of like how much stress affects us and why it should not be ignored. We've got increased cortisol production, of course, the stress hormone, but this also is our anti-inflammatory juice in the body. So anytime that we have inflammation, we release cortisol to bring it down. So if we're constantly stressed, we're also stressing out our adrenal glands on a level where we're having more trouble bringing down inflammation on a general basis because we need so much cortisol. Decreased nutrient absorption, increased nutrient excretion, decreased gut flora populations, and thyroid hormones, and sex hormones, and growth hormones, and then an increase in insulin resistance. So this can cause a cascade of things that we don't want to be happening in the system. So how do you relieve your stress? I would love to hear in the chat just a couple of ideas. Anybody have any favorites for how they relieve their stress? I personally love dancing. I love movement. I love getting out in nature. Those are some of my favorites. And breath work has been a big one for me recently in the past couple years. It's done wonders. I know it's not something that's as approachable for some people, but it can move mountains in the body as far as that goes. Anybody? Anybody have any favorites? Type it in the chat. So our stress, our favorite stress reduction activities could be any of the above. Oh yeah, let's see. What do we got? Meditation, music, walking on the beach. Yes, beautiful ways. I love walking on the beach. I love listening to the sound of the waves. Nature is deeply soothing for us, and especially in our bare feet, we get that connection, that grounding from the earth. So yoga and breath work, like I was talking about, sunshine, hugs and animal cuddles, that can be so good for the soul and for our stress response in the body. Gratitude exercises, creativity, and ooh, I got excited. I went forward. Now we're talking about trauma. Sorry. Aromatherapy can be amazing too, because our scent and our nerves that are connected to the senses can actually chill out the brain as well. So there are some really beautiful blends that can help to soothe. And then bilateral stimulation. That's another one. Yeah, outdoors, definitely your number one. Thanks for sharing, Vilma. Bilateral stimulation, like even like putting, if you're super stressed out and putting your fingers in front of one another, especially if you're having like a major stress situation, like even doing this, like moving one finger forward and back and following that finger and just changing that zone of focus can really switch up the brain. Oh, we've got another person coming in. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So let's talk about emotional blocks. So trauma is a big one. And when we have any kind of an assault, an abuse, an abandonment, miscarriages, abortions, dysfunctional relationships, these are all, the ouchy subjects, and these can get stuck in our fascia, in our tissues. And there's a lot of science behind this about how The emotional body and the physical body have bonded in this way, and these negative experiences can sit with us and even be passed on through genetics. So trauma can influence the epigenetic expression. So this actually alters our genes. It alters the activity of our cells and impacts the function of our organs as well as our glands. So that's just something to take into account. So if we have trauma that's not dealt with, it's just something to shine a light on if you're having some physical issues, because they are intimately connected. And I always like to shine a light on both sides of the body, the whole situation. So let's take a breath break. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. I know that was a lot. Stress, talking about stress and emotion, all the things that can weigh on our bodies over time. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the physical body, but experiencing undesirable hormone symptoms at any age, just a reminder, it's very common, but it's not normal. So we want to bring the body back to its natural state of being. And this means that we need to shift the internal environment. And we are an alkaline species, whether we want to admit it or not. We are designed physically, anatomically, like a primate. So when we have dis-ease in the body, it's just a lack of ease and flow in the system. And we are out of balance in the sense of like we've got too many protons. We're proton dominant. We don't have enough electrons in the system to run our system, run our hard drive and everything in the way that we need to. So when we're too far on the acidic side of the spectrum, what happens is we start buffering acids that come into the body, and the body will actually steal calcium, or it'll build fat, build cholesterol, or utilize water to put out this inflammation in the system. So we use these as our fire extinguishers. So you know that person, like, does anybody know the type of human that is super skinny and they can eat all day long and never gain a pound? That is the human that utilizes calcium as a buffer, or water as a buffer, or maybe even cholesterol. But generally, the person whose genetics are a little different and they tend to gain weight easier, that person is using fat to buffer these acids coming into the system. And that's part of the aspect of weight loss resistance too, is our body is so inflamed that our system is trying to protect us, and it's like, nope, we're going to keep this fat on there because it's cooling, it's anti-inflammatory, it's like helping us in some way to keep our cells safe. So the body is always trying to support us and help us. Yeah, exactly. So if you don't gain weight easily, we are just built a little differently, and we're using a different type of fire extinguisher. So you don't need a diagnosis to know your body needs support. Everybody waits for the diagnosis. Everybody waits for the blood test to say, hey, something's going on. But really, your body's speaking to you every single day. And if something shows up in the blood, it's been going on for a long time. So it's time to do something about it maybe before that, when the body's like, hey, I'm uncomfortable, like this is happening, and sending you little signals. The more that we can pay attention to that, the more that we are going to be in a healthy, happy body. So let's talk about physical blocks. What causes a physical block? Lack of proper nutrition, chemical toxicity, gut injury, stress, liver stagnation, lymphatic congestion, acidosis. Those usually go hand in hand, the lymph and the acidosis. And then pituitary, adrenal, thyroid injury or weakness, which can happen usually from chemical toxicity or any of these other things that are going on here. So micronutrients. We are a very macro focused culture right now. We are pushing our protein, and yes, protein is important, but our micronutrients are just as important. And our micronutrients are where all of the electron rich foods are coming from. So if we are out of balance, if we're in acidosis and our cells are clumping together and having trouble finding that flow, then what we need is the micronutrient side of the spectrum. And 94% of Americans are micronutrient deficient. So this disrupts cellular function, impairs our immune system, alters hormone production, and contributes to systemic imbalances. So this affects all of our health. So it's something that should be paid attention to. Don't ignore your fresh fruits and vegetables. They are so important. And our grandparents' tomato is not our tomato today, unfortunately. Like they had a lot better quality food than we do, believe it or not, because of our fast farming systems. So I could talk about this all day long, but especially in America, our food system is broken and we've got chemicals being thrown at us every single day. And glyphosate is a chemical that's sprayed all over our conventional food crops, not just in America and many other countries too, but it's been outlawed in Europe. So, you can go to a McDonald's in Europe and get better food than a McDonald's in the United States, which I think is super messed up. Anyways, so we've got all this stuff coming at us all the time, and the body is just having trouble keeping up with it. So, how I would love just a Paul, how many carcinogens and chemicals do you think is the average found in an American baby's umbilical cord? Give me a guess. Is it 50 to 60? Is it 20? Is it 100? 500? 200? Any numbers? Toss them out there. I want to see where your head's at. Catalina, please, if you want, you're welcome to come off of mute, or you can type in the
Hi,
chat.
thanks. I'm not sure. Really hoping it's a small number.
Oh
Probably
my,
not though.
yeah, it's between 30. Yeah, I wish it was 30. It's usually between
Mm,
250 and 280 chemicals that are being found in babies' umbilical cords these days. That is the common average. So this is why I am so deeply passionate about bringing awareness to this and how much we are living in a very like chemically driven world right now. So there's so much that we can do to just do a little preparation before we get pregnant so that we can have healthier babies. We can actually give them the leg up that they deserve so that they can have the body that they want and be able to thrive into. So we are not helpless about this, but it's something that we should be aware of. Catalina, do you have another question or was that just from my question?
oh, sorry, I accidentally pressed the button.
Okay, no worries. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing you. So that's just one example of how toxic our world is at this moment. So don't overlook it. There are tools to get those toxins out, and there's ways to support your body on a day to day basis to do so too. Keep up with the load, toxin load. So, speaking of which, there are 5 top endocrine disruptors to watch out for. Receipts are a big one. The paper receipts, the ink that's on there, the paper itself, it is disrupting your hormones. So whenever you can do paperless, if you can email that receipt instead, you're actually doing yourself a huge favor. I know it's crazy, but that's the world we live in. Our deodorants are something that are generally very toxic unless you're paying attention. There's sneaky little ingredients in there that you don't want in there. So look out for toxic ingredients. Use a natural organic deodorant whenever possible. I know that it's a little tricky to find ones that work well. I have a suggestion for you if you ever want one. Phthalates are in plastic wrap. They make things stretchy. So they actually do have phthalate-free plastic wraps. So make sure if you're shopping for plastic wrap and you can spend the extra 50 cents, to splurge on a healthier product, that would be the way to go. There's plastic baggies that way too, and all of those fun plastics the single-use plastics that I would suggest moving away from that as much as possible, but I know that we use them, so I like to put it out there. Our tampons too, very toxic stuff going in a lot of them. Using organic cotton tampons are one of the best ways to go. There's still some heavy metals that have been found in them because of our soil systems right now. But we do the best that we can. I've switched to pads. We don't have the best options, unfortunately. But progress over perfection, always. Pesticides, eating organic and non GMO whenever possible, it does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. You're getting less toxic matter into your body on a regular basis. And glyphosate, if we're ingesting it, whether we're eating it, drinking it because it's water soluble, it gets in our water systems, or we're breathing it, it starts breaking apart those tight junctions in the gut lining within 30 minutes of consumption. So it's something that can really add up over time to a lot of gut injury. Parabens are in our makeups, our lotions and things, your shampoos even sometimes. So a lot, propylene glycols are another one that are in shampoos a lot that you want to look out for, and heavy metals in general. Um, EWG.org is a wonderful website that I like to use. They use European standards for makeup and stuff as far as telling you what's toxic and what's not. So when in doubt, you can look something up on there and they have good answers for you as far as ingredients, like what is the risk factor. Stretch break. Let's stretch. That was a lot. I know that was a lot of physical talk and sciencey, but and toxin talks. Okay. All right. Taking deep breath. Here we go. One more stage of this masterclass. Oh, Christy, thank you for showing up. She's such a sweetie. Okay. All right. Gut health is hormone health. So we'd like to, or some people just don't understand the connection here. But the gut brain axis is a real thing. The gut is always talking to the brain, and 9 out of 10 of our neurotransmitters go that way, not the other way around, from the gut to the brain. And then the brain, the hypothalamus, like we were talking about at the beginning of class, that's the one that sends the signals out to the rest of the hormonal system. And the hypothalamus talks to the pituitary, and she is the master hormonal gland. So she gets to boss the thyroid and the adrenals and the ovaries around and say, hey, do this, hey, make less of that. So when the pituitary isn't getting the right signals, if there's a communication breakdown there, then there can be a cascade of hormonal imbalance that happens because of that. I don't know if you've ever played the game telephone when you were a kid, where you would sit in the circle and then one person would say something and then you'd whisper it in the next person's ear and it would go all the way around the circle. And then by the end of the circle, you would have an entirely different statement than what you had at the beginning. And that's kind of what happens in the body when this gut brain axis gets broken. So that's why we want to avoid these inflammatory foods in the gut all the time, and really work on restoring that inner terrain if it has been damaged. So 80% of our hormones are made in the gut, 90% of the serotonin, 50% of our dopamine. So especially if we're experiencing mood swings, if we're having depression, anxiety, this is all gut related. How do we identify gut injury other than, a achy tummy all the time? We've got a whole bunch of different things here that can lead to, well, not lead to, I should say, that indicate gut injury. So hormonal imbalance in general, there's usually, I would say probably like 80 to 90% of the time, there's absolutely something gut related going on. Frequent cravings, gas and bloating, digestive distress, brain fog, anxiety, mood swings, depression, frequently sick. That's another one that people um, struggle with very frequently. I've heard of a lot of people going down and not being able to bounce back and just, going down again and again. And this is a direct relation of your gut health. Autoimmune, trouble sleeping, fatigue, allergies, and ongoing skin issues can also be directly related to the gut. These are just foods for thought. And the liver, especially if we're moving into our 30s, 40s, 50s, the liver has been doing so much for us already for so long. It has a huge role in hormonal regulation and just keeping the body clean. It's our detoxifier and it does so much more. So it manages our estrogen metabolism and detoxification. It gets rid of other excess hormones too. It plays a huge role in the thyroid hormone conversion, blood sugar regulation, cortisol and stress hormones as well, and it helps to produce bile for hormonal balance. So this liver of ours is a powerhouse, and we want to really nurture it when we're working on restoring the body. So let's talk about sleeping for balance. Let's hear in the chat, what time of night do you all usually go to bed if you feel like sharing? I used to be a night owl. I was a religious night owl for so long since I was a kid. Like I was just born that way, so to speak, where I would be up at 2 a.m. and my parents would be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, "I'm rearranging my room. It's perfect time for it. I have energy." So I would get this, jazzy vibes around 10 p.m. and I just skyrocket and keep going. But what I found is that this is actually an indication of hormonal imbalance. 11 p.m. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So sometimes I still do the 11 p.m., but I really try not to. 10 p.m. That's amazing, Vilma, Catalina. 11 or 1-ish. Yeah, I was totally in that range of things for the majority of my life. Like the 10 to the no, sorry, the 11 p.m. to like the 2 a.m. range. That was usually my bedtime. But since I went on my whole healing journey, this has shifted so much. And for the first time in my life, I started waking up at like, first it was like 8:30 before my alarm went off. And I was like, what in the world? And then all of a sudden it was 8. And then it was like 7:30. And like the other day I woke up at 6:30 and I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. And it keeps re-regulating more and more as I go, as far as waking more with the sun and going and wanting to go to sleep more with the sun. And that's just our natural rhythm, and our circadian rhythm is triggered by melatonin production in the body. So when we see the morning sunlight and when we see the sunset and we're not behind glass, if we're behind glass, it's not affecting us in the same way. If we're actually outside and we have that interaction with our eyes, this is sparking melatonin production in the body. And as we heal the gut, as we balance the rest of the body, then all of a sudden these rhythms start coming back into more natural rhythm. Um, and you'll see from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., this is when the body's actually working to restore your whole system on a clock. So it has a construction team for different hours of the night when you're sleeping. And from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. is the triple burner time, the hormone stabilizing time. So even if you're getting to bed at 10:30, if you're getting to sleep by 10:45, you're getting a little bit of that triple burner action in there, which is better. You're going to have more restoration than if you went to bed an hour later. So the time that you go to sleep also will encourage more restoration in addition to just how long we're sleeping. So progress over perfection again there. That took me a really long time to move that needle, but it's finally moved and now it seems like that's my new norm and it's crazy. Intermittent fasting and grazing. I just wanted to touch on this a little bit because a lot of people talk about it, and I'm not actually a huge fan of intermittent fasting for women. And that's because from what I've seen with my clients and what I've experienced myself, it can be really stressful if you have any level of adrenal fatigue going on. And my adrenal health was part of my big healing journey. So I noticed that it put me into fight or flight and like super stressed out body, like physical reaction. So I decided to choose grazing instead throughout my process. But some people like intermittent fasting, so I like to give the guidelines for how to do it well. So again, if you're dealing with adrenal fatigue, I don't suggest it. If you are going to do this, you should do it in 18-hour chunks. And this must be done 2 days in a row to actually access your glycogen stores. One day of intermittent fasting is not going to help you. It's going to stress your body out. So ideally, you're only eating from like 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. or 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. And the rest of the time you are just doing water. And yeah, that's how I would intermittent fast to do it in the way that would support your body best. Grazing is a whole different way of things, and I like it because it picks up the metabolism and I find it more satisfying throughout the day too, and it calms my inner angsty food human, if that makes any sense. But when you're grazing, it's important to eat something by 8 a.m. In general, to balance your hormones, strongly suggest just eating something like one piece of fruit by 8 a.m. because that time in the morning is when our hormones start shifting in a way, and our body will go into fight or flight if we don't have some kind of food by like 8 or 9. So ideally, you're grazing from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And you can eat every 2 hours or every 1 hour if you're eating raw foods. And I love grazing on raw foods all day long. I'll start my day with fruits. I use an amino acid supplement, but I will just like keep grazing and using my aminos throughout the day. This is more of like a detox style protocol. And then doing a plant based meal for dinner, something like that, while working on restoring the body. So if you're grazing on regular foods and you're eating processed foods, this does not work as well. Grazing is meant for whole food eating, generally speaking. So let me know if you have any questions about that at the end. So I talked a little bit about how light affects our eyes, and our circadian rhythms and the spark of melatonin in our body that triggers a whole bunch of other hormone production. So the precursor to all hormone production is light. If we wake up and we get outside in the morning, we're telling our body what time it is. When we get our feet on the ground as well, we're telling our body what time it is. So, what I've been doing is waking up in the morning, and the first thing I do, I try not to even look at my phone too much. I'll like glance at my phone, I'll turn off my alarm, then I'll get up. If it's chilly out, I'll bundle up, I'll put on multiple layers, I'll go outside, I'll get my feet on the ground and I'll just stand in the light and I'll look at the sky. I'll look around me. I'll take in the nature for like 5 minutes. If I'm in a rush, I'll do it while I'm brushing my teeth. If I have a little bit more time, sometimes I'll sit out there and I'll like read my book or something for 15 minutes. So any bit of morning light is better than none, natural light. And then seeing that sunset at the end of the day can really help too. And then at night, we have all this artificial lighting coming up, coming from above us. So it's actually better to have lights from the ground at night. It's more natural. So using candlelight, of course, is wonderful unless you're reading at night. But also floor lamps instead of overhead lights are better for your eyes and for your cycles, not to like throw things off as much. And they have some really good blue light blockers now. If you're buying any blue light blocker glasses that are under like $100, they're probably not for real. Most blue light blocking glasses, it's like it's like you're trying to capture quinoa in a pasta strainer, basically. Like everything's just the type of light that you're trying to capture is flowing through anyways. But there are some companies that have really killed it, and Viva Rays is my favorite one, if you're curious. So just to finish up here, I want to give you some sense of, so once we clean out the body and we've got a new baseline going on, we can really play around with leaning into our cycle as our superpower, which is one of my favorite areas to work with women, because we all have this rhythm within us that is completely natural and frequently ignored because our whole society is structured on like a man's hormonal cycle basically, which happens in 24 hours, whereas ours is a whole month long and we go through many different stages. So it's all around our menstrual cycle. And if you've gone through menopause, there are still parts of this that can be applicable as far as finding your own rhythm. It's just you tune in a little deeper as far as instead of having your cycle to really pinpoint what's happening there. But during our follicular phase, so right after menstruation, this is our best time for creativity, for really brainstorming ideas, initiating and preparing, researching different things and envisioning, like bringing this vision into a bigger state of being. Then when we're ovulating, this is a great time for communication, collaboration, like your big pitch times, like you have got a lot of big energy at this time. So go connect, do stuff. During the luteal phase, this is a time of completion for us, nurturing, tending, getting organized, and like just getting things done. And then during menstruation is more of a time of evaluation and intuition, relaxation, reflecting on the month, setting intentions for our next cycle. So when we can really get in the flow with our own rhythm, beautiful things can start happening and just organically sprouting from you. And it gets to be really fun. So we can encourage these gifts to come out through our cycles. So I want to share some testimonies because this is what really lights me up is sharing what is possible and what has happened here. So this is one of my favorite clients, Megan. We took such a sweet journey together. It's a 5-month journey. She had been experiencing 4 years of estrogen dominance, hot flashes, night sweats, brain fog, and periods so bad she couldn't leave the house. So she spent 5 months with me, and after that, she was able to avoid a $38,000 surgery that her doctor said was her only option, or a couple of surgeries, I guess it was, and early menopause because they wanted to take her ovaries out. And her hot flashes went away. Her periods evened out. She no longer has painful periods. It was just beautiful to give her the gift of her body back. And then we've got Ansha. She was working on conception for 7 years. She had a thyroid imbalance, PCOS, and irregular cycles, multiple miscarriages. She had hair loss, excess weight, edema, chronic fatigue. She couldn't sleep. She would wake up like every 2 to 3 hours. So all of her symptoms went away in the first 3 months, including the thyroid imbalance. And 2 months after that, she was pregnant. So she had no more swelling, no morning sickness during the pregnancy, and her hair came back. And her energy was great through the whole thing, too. And she was sleeping through the night. So that was just such a joy. Philippa, she was experiencing 20 hot flashes a day. Felt like she had a bonfire inside of her body. Terrible night sweats, awful sleep. Her hair was thinning. 4 days into her protocol, her hot flashes vanished. Her night sweats were gone. And 3 months in, she's got a ton more energy. She's sleeping better. Her hair's growing back. At 6 months, she's got zero discomfort anywhere in her body after 50 years. And she had been having chronic spinal pain for her entire life. She had never had a memory of not having pain in her body. And then after 6 months, she was pain free. So, such powerful stuff. And last but not least, Aisha. So she had extremely long cycles since her teens, adenomyosis, also anemia and exhaustion. It's really hard for her to work. Her doctor said that they also wanted to do the hysterectomy route. She had a lot of belly fat and bloating going on, and her sleep also was a struggle. So took her 3 months, but she regulated her cycle. No more crazy period pain or excessive bleeding. Her belly fat was going down and her bloating is down and she's sleeping better. So it just goes to show that so much can happen in just 3 months' time. I usually suggest like a 3 to 6 month window, depending on where your body is at, because 3 months is how long it takes for the hormones to actually balance. And 3 months is where I start seeing people have their bigger breakthroughs. So it really gets to be exciting to lead the way and show you how to restore your body to its best balance. So I'd love to invite you all to a healthy hormone discovery session with me. And you can build a personalized roadmap as far as an action plan to get you into a body that you can actually really enjoy being in. And I know if you came here today, there's either for yourself or for somebody else, there's something on your mind that you wanted to address. So I would love to open it up. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. And I'm going to stop recording here. There's my recorder button. There we go.